corporate person working in marketing, you've got to make sure you're not in that ivory tower.
Why is my email not performing?
In 2024, the ability to collect and analyze customer data has transformed marketing. Tools are no more an issue. Everybody knows how to use them. What's missing is the authentic art and science behind creating meaningful marketing. Today, we're talking to someone who carries about close to 4 decades of experience in marketing. He teaches digital marketing at leading international universities like Cambridge Business School, Imperial College, and King's College London. He is also a course director at the Chartered Institute of Marketing, TEDx speaker, marketing guru, and author Mike Berry. Today's episode will particularly help startup founders and marketers to zoom out of their daily tools and get a macro level understanding of their digital marketing strategy. So let's talk to Mike.
Mike Berry, welcome to the Razum show, brother. You're probably one of the best digital marketing coaches in the world. You've inspired millions of people in their marketing careers. And personally, for me, you've been an inspiration as well. I've not told you this before, but there's a story, and I'll share that in a bit. But Mike, it's great to have you on the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Razum. It's great to be here. And now I'm slightly worried what you're going to tell me in this story, but I guess it'll be complimentary. So yeah,
Well,
very nice to be with you. And I'm not sure I deserve that build up, but it is great to be with you on the program. And I'm happy to share anything I know about digital marketing, as I always am.
all right. So for the listeners, this episode is all about building digital marketing frameworks. And Mike, for the story, you and I met for the first time at our digital marketing conference at the Westin Hotel in India. I had just begun my corporate career back then. I was 22 and working in the business development team with the company that organized this event. I did that for about 8 months and then founded Competitors View and Executive School. And when I started up, I didn't even know what a startup is. I had no idea about digital marketing, nothing about Google Ads, no idea about growth marketing or any marketing for that matter. The only marketing I did was when you said email marketing. The only thing that I learned was on that day when you talked about email marketing. So this is what I would do at Competitors View. I would write emails and use constant contact to send those emails to a list of people and get some leads, call those people and close those deals. And I think I was fortunate enough to have made about over a crore right in the first year, which is equivalent to about 150,000 US dollars. And it's been 7 years. We have presence across multiple countries. We are profitable, bootstrapped, and doing 8 figures in sales every year. It was tough. If you'd want me to repeat it today from scratch, it would be almost impossible. But over time, what we've done is we've developed our own growth frameworks that we follow to keep getting results and keep growing. But building these frameworks cost us a lot of failures in the process. And I think today, more than ever, entrepreneurs do not have that kind of time with them. The competition is cutthroat, and it's very, very crucial for us to get results, for them to get results ASAP. So considering that, what advice would you give to a new or small brands looking to build their audience, attract attention, and create a base of followers or subscribers? What steps should they take to have just the right foundation and get on track? Over to you, Mike.
Great question. And of course, I should congratulate you on your success since we first met each other. I hope I played some small part in that. If I recommended email marketing and it worked for you, then that makes me really happy. But I think the most important thing would be something that you know very well: hard work. Stick at it, keep going, don't be discouraged. When you have a setback, get over it, keep working. In terms of marketing, it's about building your brand. There is no magic that you just pull and say, okay, now my brand is going to fly, everything is going to be great. Nor do you have the luxury of $1 million advertising campaigns. So, especially if you're bootstrapped, if you're a self-funded startup, it's going to be tough. It's going to be lots of hard work. And sometimes you don't even know if you're going forward. It may feel like you're going backwards. But I think the great thing about digital marketing is it doesn't have to have a massive capital investment. So, to make any kind of TV ad. I know the TV companies will argue against this. You've got to have a certain budget to make it look good enough to go on TV, and newspaper, magazine advertising, we have less of it these days, but still, for big brands, that is one way of getting fast awareness. If you're a small startup, you've got to box clever. You've got to use whatever tricks you can. Social media is free. On the other hand, someone's got to do it. So if you are spending time crafting your posts and, writing blogs and making videos, you are not spending that time doing anything else. So the economists call it opportunity cost, don't they? So it's not true that any marketing is free. You might say, well, SEO is free because we don't have to pay Google. No, but you've got to do SEO, and that's your time. So I think the main thing I would say is think smart, be persistent, focus on what's giving you results. Look really carefully at your results. Time spent studying analytics is never wasted. If you can find that something is not working, stop doing it. If you find something is working, double down and keep measuring until you find that it's not working again, and then look a bit more broadly. If something new comes along, don't rush towards it. The latest bright, shiny new thing may just be that. It's not going to be necessarily the next Instagram, the next TikTok, whatever the new kid on the block is. Don't be dazzled by it. Work to find out what works for you, do that, and then test and learn. And it's not going to be easy, but on the other hand, if you're measuring, then you can improve.
That's valuable insight, Mike. And a lot of founders tell me that they have not yet found their product market fit, and they're pivoting, they're iterating their product, but they do not have the right mindset yet. And when I say mindset, I mean they do not really understand how to go about investing in their marketing arm. The position that they are in is that they do not have a product yet ready, but time is crucial for them. So they cannot really wait until the product gets finalized, and it's ready for investing a lot of money into pushing it or boosting it. So what do you think, what should be their approach around establishing their brand at this stage of their company's journey?
Well, there are always examples, aren't there, of someone who pivoted several times and they didn't even have a product, but they had a brand, and finally they got a product that worked. But that is unusual. Personally, I would say find a product that you believe people are prepared to pay for, a price that you can afford to sell it at. Then you're golden. Then you can promote it confidently. So it's the same with your website. If you have a website that you're embarrassed by, that it is poor, which doesn't have any fresh content, which has got poor user experience, you really are wasting your time. So I hear what you say about entrepreneurs who are young men and women in a hurry, or slightly older men and women in a hurry, but there is a certain minimum viable product. You've absolutely got to have something that you believe somebody wants. Otherwise, borrow more money, don't eat for 6 months, work on your product, and then confidently launch it. Having said that, there's also the opposite mistake, which is to wait till it is absolutely perfect with every I dotted and T crossed. That day may never come. So you've got to be tough at recognizing the minimum viable product and saying, okay, you know what, this is good enough to go to market. We may improve it later, but we're not embarrassed by it. Equally, we have a website which may not be as good as Instagram, and it doesn't work quite as well on iPhone as TikTok or some other cool modern app, but it is good enough. We're not embarrassed by it. It's ready to share with the world. So, I would say that there is a point at which you have a product that is acceptable and you can really get behind and generate excitement and interest in. But until then, you could be going backwards because you're promoting something that may disappoint your customers. So, you have experience of that yourself, Razum, I'm sure. You knew your product was good enough before you started promoting it. And then you got word of mouth because you had satisfied clients who spoke to other people, and they began to do your marketing for you, which is wonderful because that's free.
Yes, yes, definitely. So what you're trying to say is good enough, but only when you have a good enough product.
Yeah, and I've worked with people who hate that expression. I've never been embarrassed about good enough. I
Mm.
think it's practical. I think it's realistic. There are people who would paint the Mona Lisa and say, well, I'm not really sure about the light. Maybe I need to fix this smile. She doesn't look like she's smiling properly. Or, Starry Night by Van Gogh. Maybe I need a few more stars. Maybe it's a bit blurry. I need to kind of tighten it up a bit. The sunflowers need a few more sunflowers here. You can always add something. You can always tweak. But Steve Jobs once said, great artists ship, which meant that the product, whether it was iPhone or iPod or iPad, reached a stage where he decided, and it was him, he decided that's good enough. This will be an Apple product. We've developed it now. Okay, so obviously you get it out there and you check that people are enjoying it and finding it easy to use, and maybe there will be a 2.0 or another version of it. But before you release something, you've got to make a very tough decision, which is this is now fit for the market. And if you go too early, you'll get some problems because people won't be happy with it. If you go too late, you miss the market. And as you say, entrepreneurs are normally in a hurry because they want to get that first mover advantage. So it's not easy, but I would definitely say digital marketing can be your friend because of the flexibility and the ability to be agile with it. And also you can optimize on the fly. You can tweak, you can change. But when you've got a product that's good enough, get it out there.
All right. So you're trying to say that digital marketing is a friend that can really help us if we have a product um, ready to really meet people's expectations, right?
Yeah, as we've been saying, a good enough product. So that's the first decision. Is the product now fit for the market? It's not going to be a disaster because people will find it doesn't work or they'll be very disappointed. So no, it's better than that. Okay, it may not be perfect, but it's ready for us to promote. Then digital marketing is great because of its accountability, its measurability. And in these crucial first months when you're promoting your product, as I said before, look at the analytics, find out what are the KPIs that really move the needle for your business. Maybe it's traffic to your website. That's not going to be enough on its own, but it's one good KPI. Maybe it's engagement. What are people doing on the website? Are they playing these videos? Are they engaged users, as GA4 calls it? Are they clicking on these links? Did they register for the email newsletter? I know you're an email fan, Razum, but where do you get the addresses from? In Europe, we have GDPR, and there is similar legislation on the way in Asia and in the US, I believe. So getting email address lists from anywhere other than the individual themselves, I believe, is soon going to be very difficult. So ask people to give you their email address. Why would they do that? Because they think your product is good enough and they trust your organization and they want to talk to you. They're open to your communications. So not only do you get the email address, but also you have the beginning of a relationship. They're going to read your emails, they're going to open them, and then you've got a chance. No guarantees, but you've got a chance. So yeah, that is what I'm saying, that when you've got a minimum viable product, get it out there, do things which are cheap, and watch really carefully what is working.
So essentially, these are creating digital assets.
Yes.
Right. And
Uh,
on Instagram and on Facebook and all the social media, I keep seeing a lot of coaches that today are offering frameworks to help set up your lead magnets, create funnels, and help you drive all those sales. Do you think these assets fill into your so-called digital marketing friend positioning? Do you think this is really a digital asset?
yeah, I mean, an asset is basically anything that's valuable, and normally it costs you something to produce it. Valuable things don't just fall from the sky in my experience. So you've probably invested some time and maybe even money in creating something. And then my view on assets is make the most of them, get it out there. If it's a video, if it's a infographic, if it's a series of blog posts, if it's a training course, these are assets and very often depreciating assets. So they may not be worth as much next week as they are now, and next year they may be worthless. So yeah, get your assets out there. Frameworks, there are a lot of people who reinvent the wheel, and I I have one foot in academia. I teach at big universities, and you see the latest marketing framework or model, and you think, yep, that reminds me of the 20th century. And this is common sense. And yeah, this sounds like Philip Kotler and the 4Ps. But of course, there is a market for old wine in new bottles, as we call it. Dress it up, call it something different, give it a nifty name, a memorable acronym. I'm not going to mention any models. And a new generation of students will say, wow, that's really interesting. So good luck. If you ask me about these new frameworks, I would say look at them and look at the marketing logic behind them. And if it makes sense for you, then use it. It may not be new, but it's the underlying principles are probably sound. Marketing is really very simple. And I perhaps shouldn't say this because, I've made a career out of marketing, but it really is simple because it's identifying your target audience and it's promoting the value of your product or service in their lives. As simple as that. How can it help them with their life? Will it remove pain? Will it give pleasure? If it's a B2B situation, will it take away things which waste time and generate no revenue? Will it help them to be better in their job? Will it help them to buy better and be more profitable? And the consumer version is about your own utility and removing toil and drudgery and giving you more time for the things you like family, vacations, pleasant experiences, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, moving up the pyramid. So I think marketing is very simple, and I think there's a danger of overcomplicating it.
Okay, so you've said how marketing can be helpful, right? And knowing where you are in your marketing journey is very crucial for either a founder or a marketer, right? So I will shift gears and what's that point? For example, I have a product that I know is good enough, or probably is the need of the hour, right? I know that.
Yeah.
I've designed a campaign around it, and I've boosted it. I've invested on it. I've selected the right target audience. It's going, it's delivering, but it's not performing, right? At what point do I understand, or do I assume that there's some problem with the campaign? At what point do I say that it's not helpful and I need to do something about it?
Well, that's a $64,000 question, isn't it? You have to be prepared to pivot if necessary. And in that situation you described, my first thought might be, is there a competitive product? Where do you fit in the competitive landscape? Could it be that you are more expensive than competitors? And if so, how does your product deliver compared with them? So if you can then analyze the competition, say, actually, we're better than the competition, but we're 20% more expensive. Are you explaining that in your marketing so that people can see why you are more expensive? Or maybe you're similar to your competition and you're still 20% more expensive. Then you've got to look at your business model, haven't you? And your cost base. Can you afford to cut your price by 10%?
Yeah.
If so, maybe that will be enough, with good marketing, as long as you're close to the competitors. Or maybe another option is that you are unique. There is no competition. So, you found a blue ocean, as marketing strategists call it, where it's not very much populated by other players. But of course, that can be a lonely place, can't it? If there is no one else there, maybe there's a reason for that, because there isn't enough demand.
Yeah.
So, it's a long answer to a very short and clear question. I think it's difficult, but you're already implying in your question that you are prepared to do something, which I think is the crucial factor here. If it's not working, do something different. I think it was Einstein, wasn't it, who said, the definition of stupidity is keep doing something and expect a different result.
Mhm.
So every entrepreneur, I'm sure yourself on your route to success, Razum, you have hit brick walls and said, well, actually, we better stop this because we're hemorrhaging. We're losing money. It's not working. We're not selling enough. People don't seem to be buying our proposition. And that's when you have to have the courage to pivot and say, okay, well, what if we did that? Hypothesis, maybe this is the problem. Let's change our landing page. Let's change our website. Dropping the price should be a last resort because, that's not something you can reverse. So my suggestion would be look very carefully at the competition. If they seem to be successful, maybe try and be more like them. But definitely, if you are premium priced, you have to explain to the target audience why, because people just need to make sense of it. Think of luxury brands, they're all better than you would get from Zara or another retailer. On the other hand, there is a market for the lower price product as well. You just have to make it justifiable. And if someone is buying a Burberry raincoat, they know it's much more expensive than they could buy from a department store, from another high street retailer. And that's fine because it's Burberry, and they've got that brand with that kudos, and it is considered to be better. If, however, you're a startup and you're way adrift on price, then that could be a problem.
Yeah, and I've faced this firsthand. Um, we started back in 2016 in India, and we did classroom-based trainings. And our trainings were quite expensive than most of the offerings around. And we were doing a lot of email marketings, and a lot of people were responding to us, filling out those forms, but these leads wouldn't convert. So I decided to roll up my sleeves and call these people. I've stopped doing that after a couple of years into the business because we've had a team, right? So I decided to get down to the problem, and I called one of these executives at a large healthcare company, and I said, "What's the problem? You've shown interest. I know you need it. You know you need it. What's the problem?" And he said, "Your course is expensive than the rest of everybody who's in the market." And I said, so let's think about it. What is more risky? Is it more risky for you to pay a little extra and have the problem solved? Maybe you crack that leadership role that you're trying to crack. Or is it more risky to pay a little less and maybe the problem doesn't get solved? And when the moment I shifted the way he looked at the problem, it was no more expensive for him. And he said, where should I send the payment? So, right.
Great story.
These are first-hand experiences. And uh, so I think I've found the answer to the question that I asked in the history of making sales, is that no one but you will realize what's wrong, and you'll have to be very careful about things, right? And plans really do not work the way you plan.
I think the other thing from that story, Razum, which, if I may say so, is that you did what a lot of CEOs and founders do not do. You put yourself out there, talking to the customer and potential customer. And, you experienced the rejection that a salesperson gets every day. And they just said, no, sorry, not interested, or even not sorry, don't bother me. Will you stop calling me? I'm not going to buy this product. And that guy, whoever it was, told you something very valuable, didn't they? That you're adrift on price. You are separate from everyone else. And then you were able to counter that. But if he hadn't told you, you probably didn't realize quite that that was the perception. So, as I said a little earlier, be very clear who is your competition and exactly what are they offering. What you're not going to know for sure is how well are they doing. This is their price, that's on their website. Do they really charge that much, or do they always do a deal? Is that a rate card, and will they discount by 20%? So, when I worked for a major hotel chain, not for them, but as the head of their advertising agency, they told me they actually send people round to hotels in London and other big cities, and they book a room and then they cancel it. But they book the room as part of their job. So they have mystery shoppers. And some of them do actually stay in the hotel and comment on the quality, but most of them don't stay there. They're just comparing pricing. So, how much would it cost for me to stay in your hotel tonight? Can you give me the suite? What's the lowest you could do it for? $250, whatever. So they are actively, and in a very offline analog way, they're actively monitoring real competitor prices. And the extension of that is, are your competitors making money in this market offering something quite similar to you? And if so, how can you be better than them? Because if you're not better than them, you're not going to win, are you? If people see you as a copycat product, and even worse, same quality but more expensive, then that isn't going to work. You're going to go out of business.
There's a very interesting story that I recall, and it's based on how we measure the performance of our marketing campaigns. So I was spending a lot of time on crafting and designing great copies and great ads and those ad banners. Everything I thought was exceptionally very well designed, but business was not growing in the sense that those leads were not converting. So I thought that maybe the campaign is not generating quality leads. Maybe the leads are not sales ready. I tried all that shift in design of the marketing campaign, but nothing changed. Then one day, while I was on the sales floor, one of my sales rep was calling. He was cold calling. Oh no, actually, he was calling a BD, an inbound lead that has come up, and he called this person and he said, "You've inquired for XYZ course," and the person said, "I'm not interested," and this guy hung up. And I said, what just happened? And he said, that guy was not interested. And I said, obviously he was not interested. So I asked him to redial and we got connected. And I said, hi, my name is Razum. I'm with Competitors View. I'm the founder. And he said, yes. And I said, you've inquired about this course. What happened? And he said, I did, but I'm not interested. I said, obviously you're not interested, because if you'd be interested, you would have called me. I wouldn't be calling you. Right. If I want to buy an iPhone, the iStore doesn't come to me. I go to the Apple Store, right, to buy that iPhone. So here I am to you. You do not have enough information for you to be interested at this moment, right? And I've learned this from a famous sales expert. I don't recall the name, but you do not have enough information to be interested at this point. It doesn't make sense. I mean, how weird it would sound if I would call you and you would say, "Hey, I'm interested." Right?
Yeah.
That sounds absurd, right? So can we inform you for you to be interested or not be interested? And that's how things started to change. There was a problem in sales, in the way the sales rep were closing those leads. And I thought that the problem is in the marketing campaign. So the lesson here is most of these founders are measuring their marketing campaigns on the wrong metrics, not going deep enough.
Yes, I think that's very interesting. And in a B2B situation, marketing and sales have to work together, don't they? Marketing can open the door, but then sales has to put their foot in it to get in the door.
Yeah.
So
You're
that's
right.
a perfect example of sales maybe missing a trick. And hopefully that salesperson behave differently in the future. Of course, it might have been a marketing problem, because if there were no leads for sales to follow up, then something was wrong. But of course, if marketing is able to generate leads from people willing and able to buy, then sales has to convert them. So in my experience, there's often a misunderstanding and a mutual suspicion between those two departments. And if I train marketers and I mention sales, they kind of roll their eyes. They think those guys, they're just all about volume. They're always trying to give away discounts. They hurt the company profitability. And equally, if you ask sales, they say, well, marketers, they're all in an ivory tower. They're unrealistic. They are all about big, glossy advertising campaigns. They're wasting money. They should give us the money. We'll use it for sales discounts. So, in some situations, they manage to work together with mutual respect. And that's, of course, what the CEO wants to happen. Play nicely, guys. We need each other. We need marketing and we need sales in B2B. Of course, in B2C, it's different. Very
Yes,
often, marketing is making a direct appeal to the potential buyer. And therefore, the website has to be the salesperson.
correct.
And
100% agree.
and
Yes.
that's quite a challenge because you're not going to be there. The website has to suggest people who bought this also bought that. You click through to the checkout and it has to be smooth and easy and remind you what a great thing you're gonna buy, and then submit your order and a lovely thank you appears. So you're like the salesman there saying, thank you very much, it's going to be great, you've made a great decision. But if you're a big corporate person working in marketing, you've got to make sure you're not in that ivory tower, because that's exactly what sales will suspect you of. You've got to be down to earth. You've got to be realistic. And the other department you have to get along with is finance, of course. If you are fighting for a marketing budget, you've got to prove that you deserve it. And you've got to prove that you spent it wisely last year.
So, you've talked about the importance of really keeping a very careful attention on the kind of campaign points that you need to really be aware of that defines the performance of any campaign. In consideration to that, can you tell me the top 5 mistakes that you see marketing managers making when they are conceptualizing those marketing campaigns? And even before that, can you tell me one of the best campaigns that you've seen in recent times?
I'll tell you some things which come to mind, but there may be 4, there may be 6. So you can count them as I say them, Razum. I think the first mistake that I see a lot is assuming the customer already understands your product. And the second point is kind of related to that in terms of your assets, which we were talking about earlier. Assuming that you need to have separate assets in every channel. So we can't use this video because it's already on our website. Or we use this already on YouTube, so we need something different. People are going to get bored. People don't see everything the way you do because you created it. You see it all the time. You get bored sooner than the customer does. So don't assume that people know what your brand is. And secondly, don't assume that you're going to bore them if you repeat yourself. In this busy, distracted life that we all lead, a bit of repetition is a good thing. It consolidates, it reassures. Another thing I would say is don't assume people don't want long copy. I mean, lots of words. I come from the 20th century of marketing, where we used to have fulfillment packs sent out in the post. And then in the 21st century, everything is quick, short form video, X, replies, share, move on to the next short form. But no, there is still a role for words. They say a picture paints 1,000 words. Those words should not be in an ad which is seeking to flag people down. That is the job, to interrupt them and grab their attention and show them something quick. But when they show that they're interested, they should have plenty of words if they want to read them. So that's where, of course, the website comes in. There was a time a few years ago when people were saying, well, it's a consumer brand, we don't need a website anymore. Well, very big mistake. And luckily that seems to have passed out of fashion. But at the time I said, this is wrong because it's not owned media. Your Facebook page is owned by Facebook, not by you.
Correct.
You may think you have control over it, but actually Facebook can change the rules about competitions, about prize draws, about money off loyalty programs. And they will just send you a little message saying this contest, this promotion, does not appear on your Facebook page because it contravenes our terms and conditions. If you'd like to read them, here's the link. Good luck. We're looking forward to seeing what you propose next. But basically, it's their website. So I do think people need to have a website. It needs to be state of the art. It needs to be as easy to use as the Times of India, the Times of London, the New York Times, Facebook, WhatsApp. In other words, people are very impatient. So that's another thing. One of these 6 or so principles, I would say, look at the best in class and try and get close to them. It may not be very expensive. You're not going to have the resources of Meta or Google or Amazon, but you can at least have a functioning website that loads fast and performs. And, like so many things, including your product, that could be good enough. So, benchmark against your competition, check your Google page speed tool, just make sure that you are competitive. So I think I'm saying 2 things in one there. First of all, long copy still works. Secondly, focus on the user and delivering a great user experience. You asked me what is my favorite campaign. There are many. I think Unilever does a lot of very good things. I think for Dove, they've done some great work. I think that Coca-Cola have had missteps and they've had issues in certain countries, but on the whole, Coca-Cola does good marketing in all channels. I've personally also worked with McDonald's, which may have lots of issues in terms of healthy eating, and in certain countries there are people who really have been negative about McDonald's, but I think their marketing is very consistent. There's no question who it is. McDonald's are very single-minded in what they are selling, which is fast food, and it's a consistent brand image. So, those companies, I would say we can learn from them. It doesn't have to be strikingly different every time they communicate. More important to be consistent, to be reliable, and to just kind of reassure people, yeah, we're still here. You know what we're offering. Just remember us. So, the other brand that I still admire a lot is Nike, and Nike's had a lot of issues. I teach sustainability and sustainable marketing. I think Nike have been called out, maybe rightly, maybe wrongly. I don't have my lawyer here, but Nike have taken a lot of trouble to make sure their supply chain is sustainable, and they are selling a lot of shoes, a lot of clothing, and I think their advertising and their marketing in all channels has always been inspirational. And it hasn't been about the product, it's been about praising famous athletes, and that goes back 30 years. They've been very single-minded about that. It's a big idea which has a lot of scope. And you think of Nike, you think of their swoosh, you think of the logo. You don't confuse it with Puma or Adidas, do you? So they've succeeded in carving out a unique brand which people remember. And in a cluttered world, I think that's a great achievement. So I hope that answers your multiple questions, Razum.
No, yes, you definitely do. And I really agree with your fact on what you've said about the copy. And what I've always believed, like I said, I've been writing emails and my emails are pretty lengthy. So what I've believed over the years is a marketer shouldn't be really afraid of writing lengthy copy. What he should be afraid of is of writing boring copy. Right?
Exactly.
Because if I am a serious customer, I would want to read about it. And the more information I have, the more equipped I am to make a purchasing decision, right? So
Yeah.
I've always believed this. So yeah, I agree to your point 100%.
I think email is a really good example of that. What do you want someone to do with an email? First of all, this probably reminds you of when I was training you in email marketing, Razum, which was many years ago. But the fundamentals have not changed. The first thing is to get the email delivered. The second thing is to get it opened. And once it's been opened, you have a chance as the sender. No guarantees, but you have a chance. They're going to look at the headline. You may have an image in there, but not too big, or you go in the spam filter. And the subject line is not going to be anything that's going to provoke the spam filter either. But somehow you got through everything and the customer's got it in their inbox and they open it and it's in front of them. So someone will want to read a lot of words to be persuaded. Some people will already be sold. So give them a link at the top of the email, and the ones who want to read, let them scroll down, and then there's another link at the bottom. Wouldn't it be a simple test? What
Yeah.
percentage of people click on the top link? What about the second link? You track them separately. And if no one's clicking on the bottom link, then maybe we've got too much long copy. And then you test a different version. But this is the beauty of digital marketing, particularly email, in fact, that it's very cheap to test, as long as you are clear at setting up your test and you know what you are testing, rather than just randomly testing lots of different factors. So yeah, I think don't write off long copy. I know young people have short attention spans, but particularly in B2B and particularly with an older audience, some people need persuading. And think of anything. I would encourage your listeners as well to think of anything that you buy that's expensive, whether it's an airline ticket or a vacation or a university degree or a training course. You think, well, I want to get this right. I don't want to make a mistake. And actually, doing your homework is quite enjoyable because you're thinking of when I bought this product. Yeah, that's going to be great. Let me just find out. Let me remind myself what I'm buying here. Oh, yes, okay. So it's not like hard work. It's not like studying something that you're not interested in. It's actually something you are very interested in. So give them the words. If they don't want to read them, they don't have to read them. Just put a big link for them to click on when they've read enough.
Yes. I've been a solo founder and I've not raised external funding, and quite willingly. Um, I what I've done is I've taken advice from a lot of people, and when my emails were not performing in about 2 years from when I started, I reached out to a CMO and I said, why is my email not performing? It was performing earlier. And he said, you're writing too much content and people want to really read the headlines and make a decision. And then I thought to myself that if somebody is to read a headline and make a decision, the headline is already there. He doesn't need to really scroll down because I'm already giving him what he wants. My email length is for those people who want more information. So by writing a long copy, a long email, I'm serving both classes, somebody who makes a decision out of a short copy and somebody who reads the entire email. So I'm not sure why today marketers are really mad about trimming their copies. So it's just a trend maybe.
Yeah, but I think we discussed it earlier, didn't we? We give people the chance to click straight away after one line of the email. If you would like to sign up for this offer, please click here. And then if they keep reading, it means they're not yet convinced, but at least there is something for them to read. And when they've read enough, there's another link. Maybe they've scrolled down and, maybe they just needed a bit more persuasion. And the same with the website, make the user experience such that people can get what they want to really quickly or really slowly. If they need more content, they want to watch another video, they want to see some testimonials from satisfied clients, they want to sign up for an email newsletter, they want to, get to know your company before making a purchase. So you've got to have multi-speed user experiences. So the user journey could be in lots of different forms, but every user can choose the journey which is optimal for them. And that's a really good user experience. They don't even realize that they're different from other customers. All they know is it works for them.
All right. Now, Mike, can you give us 5 tools that you think are really very relevant in 2024 for digital marketers?
I can definitely talk about what I think are the big things. And yes, I am going to mention the one beginning with A and finishing with I. But we'll leave that for a little bit. A few years ago, we talked about big data, which was always a silly expression, I thought. It just meant lots of data. It remains very, very important. So it's not exactly a tool, but anything to do with gathering data and understanding your customers and your users better, that will never be old. That will never be out of date. So, I encourage students, I teach universities, get into analytics, and I encourage founders, hire a good analyst. You're too busy, you haven't got time, but find someone who understands the numbers and can extract insights from them. So number one would be data. Number two would be measure everything that matters. So, whether that's your analytics tool, maybe it's social media monitoring, maybe it's looking at your app and finding out, how well it's working on iPhone compared with Android, for instance. But noting behavior, but not stopping at behavior. So we can count clicks, but that tells us the what, doesn't it? We need the why. So they clicked on there. Yeah, okay, great. But why? Why did they click on there? Why did they not add that to their basket and go to the checkout? Instead, they left the process. So we've got to start with the data, but not stop there. So it's data, insights, and then action. Action is change something. So, I'm deliberately not mentioning particular proprietary tools, but I would say anything that helps you to measure the things that really matter, set the appropriate KPIs. And, on your website, a lot of people are going to be using Google Analytics, but also people are using IBM or Adobe Analytics. And, if you're in a big corporate, you may have a deal with one of those companies. They can all deliver the basics. And then beyond that, it's about customizing to suit whatever, is your own priority. What are your KPIs? I would also say be careful about shiny new things. There will always be a new social network. And in this case, the marketer goes to the CFO and she says to him, why are we testing this brand new social network, which I've never heard of, because you say it's cool? Exactly how many people in our country are using it, and what track record have they got with the advertisers who are currently on board? And normally the marketing guy then goes quiet and says, I don't know, actually, I think they're quite new. So put your money on Facebook, put your money on Instagram, put the videos on YouTube. There are people who are currently concerned about X, but we're even beginning to call it X. Maybe, just maybe, it will continue. Maybe Elon has not spoilt Twitter after all. So take a view, but certainly fish where the fish are. And no company needs to be a pioneer of a new social network. Life's hard enough. Fish where the fish are. So I would definitely say it's the usual suspects. It is Facebook, it is Instagram. Older people, Facebook; younger people, Instagram; everybody, YouTube. And of course, for B2B, LinkedIn is very hard to beat. So none of that should be a revelation to your audience. But the main thing is measure what matters. The other, on that subject, I would say choose your KPIs very carefully, because there's plenty of stuff you can measure and count, and it comes from your analytics tool, and you just say, how interesting. But someone should also say, so what? We know that now. What are we going to do differently? Oh, nothing really. It's just interesting that 70% of our customers are female. Oh, we're not going to do anything differently. No. So, all right, don't spend any time on KPIs. And when you see something which is interesting but irrelevant, ignore it. So be confident enough to ignore the things that don't matter and focus ruthlessly on the things that do matter. I think that would be my biggest bit of advice. I mean, I've said already data, and I've said think about your customer. Avoid distractions, focus on the things that matter. And I did mention AI, didn't I? Everyone is talking about AI. I'm allowed to speak about that now, Razum?
Please tell me.
There are fads in technology and marketing, and there are trends, aren't there? And for a little while, I've been saying, well, maybe the metaverse was a fad, maybe even blockchain was a fad. These things tend to get hyped up. There's something called the Gartner hype cycle, isn't there? And then things kind of calm down, and often they come back when the technology has advanced. I think that already AI is beyond a fad. It's already a trend. And someone said the other day that AI is not a trend. It's more important than that. So even more important than trend. The reason it's important is that it's reached a tipping point. And if we only look at generative AI, and I'm doing a lot of work on that at the moment, it is replacing humans. And technology which offers a big saving in human costs and also a time saving normally wins. And this is what we're looking at the moment with AI, generative AI. The new tools for words, for pictures, for video are doing a lot of things to a high standard very fast. And that's a very powerful combination. It's not like you push a button and get instant low quality. It's more like you push a button and it's good enough. Sometimes better than humans, but definitely good enough. So you got to think, if you're running an agency and you have 20 copywriters and 10 designers, how many of them do you need in the future? Maybe you don't need so many. Maybe you need a percentage of them, and you need to subscribe to 2 or 3 tools. The tools are cheap and they're getting better all the time. There's a bit of a contest going on between some of our usual suspects, including Meta and Alphabet, Google, and a lot of new startups. OpenAI is in a relationship with Microsoft, which is making Bing suddenly look a lot more powerful. And it's a land grab, and I don't think anyone knows how it's going to wind up. But at the moment, every month, there is something new. And I know some agency bosses who are saying, well, on one hand, it means that I can empower my people to be freed up, to be editors, to be making creative judgments because they're not doing all the content treadmill. That sounds good. On the other hand, what if my clients get these tools? Then they won't need us at all. So I think a lot of agencies are rethinking their business model. So if you can ask me what is the biggest thing at the moment, I would say it's AI, and it's not just hype. I think there is a real change in the landscape going on. And what is not an option is to ignore it. So I would urge every business owner and every senior marketer to understand AI as soon as possible, because it is going to affect your business, whether you like it or not.
So what you're saying is, I think absolutely correct. And regardless of the fact that if there's anything that's constant in digital marketing, it is that it keeps changing. But AI is here to stay, and for the better, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that you're right. Digital has always changed, but this is fast. You could say, well, SEO is still SEO, and it was 10 years ago. Online display advertising got programmatic and real-time bidding, but it's still basically banners and skyscrapers. Pay-per-click is still Google Ads, and pretty much you pick your keywords and you write some ads against them. But AI is changing, as we said, from month to month, and maybe from week to week. And it's going to look very different in 6 months, but ignoring it is not an option. So I encourage everyone viewing this program today to get your feet wet. Don't spend a lot of money on it. Don't bet the farm, but just find out what's possible, and do a bit of training, talk to some people, go to some events, because AI really is transforming businesses as we speak.
Okay. Now, Mike, I've really taken a lot of your time, and thank you for that. But I'd really want to ask this one last question from you. And I'm afraid if this can also be the second last question, but um, it's very important for every founder or a chief marketing officer, more so at a startup, to understand how to go about building a marketing team. So the question that I want you to answer is, what are those red flags to see when you're about to hire a digital marketer or a growth marketer in your team? What are those red flags that these people should be very careful about?
Well, marketers tend to be good salespeople for themselves. So you've got to be careful not to be taken in by the sales pitch. I would say, scratch the surface a bit and see how much substance there is to this person. If they're young, if they're junior, if they're cheap, maybe you take a chance on them. A new graduate, for instance, you want someone with the right mindset. They might be very keen, but ignorant and prepared to admit it and say, okay, well, I'm going to learn this by doing it. And you say, okay, I'm going to make sure that she doesn't get the whole marketing budget under her control. I'm going to keep her on a short leash. That's about managing people, isn't it? But maybe she'll be the best hire you ever made because you've given her a chance and she wants to impress you and she's clever and she's agile and she will learn fast. I also, speaking as an older person, really believe in DEIB in terms of diversity, inclusivity, and don't think that you have to get a cool young person to do digital. Old people get it as well. And remember that older people, there's more chance they will have experience in marketing. In certain countries, certain regions of the world, offline is still very important. And it's absolutely the case that offline people can get online. Digital marketing is about learning the tools, learning the jargon. It's still marketing. So I would say when hiring, go for a mixed team, a blend of experience and youth. And the most important thing is agility, flexibility. So someone can be mentally agile at the age of 60, and they can be old at the age of 20 if they're set in their ways. For instance, I sometimes have students who say TV is dead now. No one watches TV. I have to put them straight. TV is alive and well. TV advertising is still very big business. A lot of people sit down and watch a picture on a TV set. Are you saying that that could be Netflix? Okay, well, we can debate what even TV is. But what I'm saying is that you have to have an open mind, and I would hire people who are open and agile and curious. And they could look like anything, they could be any age, they could be any color, but the right sort of people will want to learn and want to grow with your business. And I think good entrepreneurs instinctively know if someone is right. Would he or she fit in? Would they make a difference to our business? Can I see them being part of our journey? And when you find the right person, have the confidence to hire them and give them a chance. And often they will favorably surprise you, I think. And I've hired people myself over the years, and you see them grow. You put them in the right environment, trust them a bit, give them a little scope, and they will blossom and flourish. And that's also very rewarding as a manager, as an employer, to see the team growing and, building up a spirit and helping each other and, be brave.
Yeah. Mike, why I said that this might be my second last question is because I wanted to ask you particularly about your book that you've authored, Digital Marketing Fundamentals. Can you shed some light on what insights the book offers and um, how practical the book is, and what kind of insights can a marketer expect to get from it?
Yes, absolutely. It's co-authored with Marilyn Visser, Visser. So it's Visser and Berry, Digital Marketing Fundamentals, published by Routledge, which is part of Taylor and Francis. And we're now in our third edition of the book. It is a pleasure to write it. It's a lot of hard work, but it's been adopted by universities all over the world and also by practitioners. And that is a difficult balance to strike because we want to have academic respectability and we've got all the theoretical models in there, including a few of our own, but also it's intensely practical. And, as I was saying a little earlier in this conversation, Razum, marketing is not that difficult. People do make it difficult. People dress it up in fancy jargon and, as I said, old wine in new bottles, something that we've known for many years can be given a new coat of paint and a new whizzy name, and basically it's still common sense. So that is the overall theme of the book. Focus on your customer, think of their wants and needs, and then, of course, use all the tools available. And the tools are different from 30 years ago. If your customers are on Instagram, that's the place to find them. If they're on YouTube, you need to be there with the right communication. Once they click through on your post on Facebook, they've got to find your website where you are showcasing your brand in all its beauty and all its glory, as we said earlier, with long copy. And don't forget offline. I'm not one of those digital marketers who say, well, TV is dead. Print advertising is dead. There won't be any billboards soon. What about radio? Forget it. You use whatever is available. And I also believe that continuity and consistency across all channels is absolutely fundamental. It's still shocking how many companies organize their offline in a different way, sometimes with a different agency from their digital marketing. And even recently, I've heard someone saying, well, we need AI communications. What? No, AI is just a method by which everything will get better and faster and more efficient. So use AI to power your business and keep striving for integration, synergy between offline and online, and always focus on the customer. If whatever you're doing makes sense to them and helps them to bond with your brand and makes it easy to buy from you, then you will be successful and you'll deserve to be.
I hope viewers find this really insightful. I'm sure they will.
Thank you, Razum. They can contact me on LinkedIn. I'm always open to having more contacts, and who knows, maybe we can do business together. Mike Berry.
All right. Thank you, Mike, and thank you everyone for tuning in today.
Thanks, everyone. Good luck with your marketing.